I thought I had everything figured out. The life I envisioned, the woman I was about to marry, the future we were supposed to build together. But all of it shattered in the blink of an eye. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. I stood at the altar, the smell of roses in the air, the soft murmur of friends and family around us. I could see her, the woman I had loved with everything I had, smiling at me as she walked down the aisle. Her white dress glowed under the soft lighting, and I felt my heart race. We were about to say our vows, to become one. This was the culmination of years of love, promises, and dreams. But then, as she took my hand, I saw something in her eyes. A flicker, an uncertainty that I couldn't explain. I brushed it off, thinking it was just pre-wedding nerves. After all, we had been through so much together. Her love was strong. It had to be. The ceremony went by in a blur. I remember repeating my vows, pledging my heart and soul to her. I remember her saying, "I do," and how my heart swelled with joy. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Later that evening, as we celebrated with our closest friends and family, I caught a glimpse of something that would forever haunt me. I saw my brother, my blood, the one I trusted above all, leaning in close to her. Their laughter echoed across the room, a little too intimate for my comfort. I didn't think much of it at first. They were just talking, right? But then I saw the way he touched her arm, the way her smile lingered a little too long. And that's when it hit me. I was too naive, too trusting. How could I not have seen it? My fiancé and my brother, two people who were supposed to love and care for me, had been hiding something from me. A secret I never imagined in my worst nightmares. As the night wore on, I tried to ignore the gnawing feeling in my stomach. I danced with her, pretending everything was perfect, but all I could think about was the moment I saw them together. Why hadn't I questioned it earlier? Why hadn't I seen the signs? It wasn't until later that night, when the house had quieted down and the last guest had left, that I discovered the truth. I found her phone on the couch, unlocked. A message from my brother, one that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just a friendly chat. No. It was something far worse. A confession of love, hidden behind careful words. And then, at the bottom, a line that burned into my soul. "I can't wait for tonight. I want you the way I've always wanted you." In that moment, everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty came crashing down. My brother, the one I trusted more than anyone, was in love with my fiancée. And she had been hiding it from me, playing me for a fool. It wasn't just the betrayal that hurt, it was the realization that the people I trusted most had never really been on my side. My heart shattered as I stood there, staring at the message. My fiancée, the woman I was supposed to marry, had been planning to leave me for my brother all along. And I, the fool, had no idea. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who would get lost in a fairy tale. But somehow, in the quiet moments between the hustle and bustle of life, I found myself living it. At least, I thought I was. I'm Daniel. A man who believed in love, loyalty, and the idea that, if you work hard enough, you get to have the life you've always dreamed of. And for a long time, I thought I had everything I ever wanted. My fiancée, Olivia, was everything to me: beautiful, compassionate, and smart. She had this way of lighting up every room she entered, a laugh that made my heart skip a beat. We had been through a lot together, weathering the storms of life side by side, and in my eyes, we had already built something unbreakable. We were solid. Or so I thought. It had been 3 years since we met at a mutual friend's wedding. I was the best man, and she was a bridesmaid. I'll never forget the way she looked that day, standing across the room, her eyes sparkling as she laughed at something one of the groomsmen had said. She had this warmth about her that drew me in from the moment I saw her. I remember telling my friend, "She's the one." And I wasn't wrong. From that day on, we were inseparable. At first, everything seemed perfect. We spent long nights talking about our hopes and dreams, planning our future as if it was already written in the stars. Olivia wasn't just my fiancée, she was my best friend, the person who knew me better than anyone else. We supported each other, encouraged each other, and built a life together that felt like it could withstand anything. I could tell you about the cozy evenings we spent in our apartment, cooking dinner together, laughing over silly jokes, and listening to music as we washed the dishes side by side. Or how she would sneak up behind me on the couch, wrap her arms around me, and whisper, "I love you," in my ear. She was the light of my life, the reason I worked so hard to build a future for us both. But it wasn't just Olivia who made our relationship what it was. It was also my brother, Ethan. He was the third wheel in our story, but not in the bad way. Ethan and I had been close since we were kids. As brothers, we had a bond that was unshakable. He was always there for me, just like I was always there for him. We had shared everything our childhood, our secrets, our dreams. And when Olivia came into my life, I assumed he'd be just as supportive. After all, she was the woman I wanted to marry, the woman I thought would complete me. Ethan and Olivia hit it off from the start. They got along so well that, sometimes, I felt like the odd one out. But it didn't bother me at first. I loved seeing them laugh together, chatting about everything and nothing. Olivia would spend hours talking to Ethan about work, about life, and I'd be sitting on the sidelines, just happy that the people I loved were getting along so well. But there was a fine line I never noticed until it was too late. Ethan had always been charming, the kind of guy who could make friends in an instant. He had this effortless charisma that people were drawn to. But as time went on, I began to notice something different about the way he interacted with Olivia. It wasn't just casual friendship anymore. There were moments, fleeting yet undeniable, when I could see the way they looked at each other, the way their conversations lingered just a little too long. And it made me feel uneasy. I brushed it off at first. I mean, Ethan was my brother. Of course, they'd have a connection. She was going to be part of the family, after all. But as our relationship grew stronger, as the months passed and the wedding day approached, the little moments between them started to add up. I remember one night, about 6 months before the wedding, Ethan had come over to help me with some stuff for the big day. Olivia had gone out with some friends, and I was in the kitchen, prepping some food. Ethan and I were talking about life, as brothers do, but I couldn't help but feel like there was something between him and Olivia that I hadn't fully understood. I couldn't shake the thought that maybe there was something more to their friendship that I was willing to admit. I told myself it was just my overactive imagination. After all, Ethan was my brother. He would never do anything to hurt me. Olivia would never hurt me. But then, I saw it. It wasn't anything obvious, no overt gestures, no stolen kisses. It was just a look, a fleeting glance that passed between them during a family dinner. Olivia had laughed at something Ethan said, and in that split second, I saw something in her eyes. A spark, a connection. It was the kind of look you give someone when you're more than just friends. I froze, my heart sinking into my stomach. I shook the thought away, telling myself I was being paranoid. But deep down, I couldn't escape the feeling that something was wrong. That maybe, just maybe, my brother, my own flesh and blood, was looking at my fiancée the way I had never wanted to imagine. Still, I pushed the thought to the back of my mind. The wedding was coming up, and everything was supposed to be perfect. Olivia and I were in love. Ethan was my brother. Nothing was going to change that, right? I had no idea how wrong I was. It wasn't until the night of our engagement party that everything started to unravel. It was meant to be a celebration, a night to bring together family and friends and toast to the life Olivia and I were about to build. But that night, nothing went according to plan. The evening began with laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses. Olivia was glowing, surrounded by her closest friends, while I was busy making sure everyone was having a good time. Ethan, of course, was right there with me, joking around, helping out, just like always. But as the night wore on, I started to feel something off, something I couldn't quite place. The way Ethan kept looking at Olivia, the way she would laugh at something he said a little too genuinely. It was subtle, but it sent an icy chill down my spine. I told myself I was being paranoid. They were family, after all. Olivia and Ethan had known each other for years, even before we got together. I trusted them both. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. At one point, as I was talking to some of my friends across the room, I saw Olivia and Ethan standing by the window, talking quietly. Nothing unusual about that. They were having one of those deep, meaningful conversations. But the way they were standing so close, their heads tilted towards each other like they were sharing a secret, made my heart skip a beat. It wasn't just a casual chat. It was intimate, like they were sharing something only the two of them knew. I tried to ignore it. I really did. But my stomach churned, and every fiber of my being screamed at me to pay attention. This wasn't just a moment of innocent friendship. There was something more to it, something that felt wrong. Just as I started walking over to them, my phone buzzed in my pocket, distracting me. It was a message from Olivia. "Hey babe, I need to talk to you about something. Can you come to the back room for a sec?" Relief flooded through me. Maybe I was just overthinking things. I smiled, pocketed my phone, and headed towards the back of the house where Olivia had asked me to meet her. But as I rounded the corner, something caught my eye, something I couldn't ignore. There, in the dimly lit hallway, was Ethan. His phone was in his hand, but it wasn't the phone that made me freeze. It was the look on his face, his eyes wide, filled with something I couldn't read, something I wasn't prepared to see. And just as I stepped closer, he quickly shoved his phone into his pocket, his expression shifting to one of casual indifference. I stood there, frozen. I could feel the cold sweat beginning to form on my forehead. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what I had just seen. "Hey man, are you good?" I asked, trying to mask the unease in my voice. Ethan gave me a tight-lipped smile, but there was something off about it. "Yeah, just checking some things. You know how it is." He ruffled his hair awkwardly and shifted his weight from one foot to the other. I nodded, still not fully convinced. But I didn't press it. Instead, I turned and headed towards the back room to meet Olivia, trying to shake the feeling that something wasn't right. But as I entered the room, I found myself standing there, paralyzed. Olivia wasn't alone. She was sitting on the couch, her eyes locked on her phone. And next to her, sitting just a little too close, was Ethan. I could see the way he leaned in towards her, his hand resting lightly on the couch between them. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the moment press down on my chest. The air in the room felt thick, suffocating. Olivia looked up when I walked in, her face lighting up with a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. The same look I had seen on her face earlier, the flicker of something I couldn't place, was there again. It was like she was hiding something, and I was too blind to see it until now. "Hey," Olivia said, standing up. "We were just talking about the wedding. Ethan had some ideas about the seating chart." I forced a smile, trying to play it cool. But I couldn't ignore the tension that seemed to hang between them. My brother. My fiancé. It wasn't supposed to feel like this. "Right," I said, trying to sound casual. "I'll leave you two to it. I think I've had enough wedding talk for one night." But before I could turn to leave, something stopped me. A feeling deep in my gut, telling me to stay. Telling me that this was the moment when everything would change. I stayed in the room, not knowing what to say or do. Ethan glanced at me briefly, but his eyes quickly darted away. Olivia, too, seemed nervous now. The air between us had shifted, and I couldn't figure out why. I didn't know how long I stood there, but it felt like an eternity. I was suddenly hyper-aware of the way Ethan's hand was still resting on the couch between them, of the way Olivia shifted uncomfortably when I didn't move. Finally, Olivia broke the silence. "Daniel, I'm glad you're here. We were just discussing some final details for the party." But I could hear the edge in her voice now, the tension in her words. It was all wrong. Everything felt wrong. I forced a smile, nodding in agreement. "Yeah, of course. We've got a lot to finalize." But the knot in my stomach wouldn't loosen. Something wasn't right. And as I stood there, caught between the two people I trusted most in this world, I had a sinking feeling that I was about to learn the truth that would tear everything apart. Later that night, after the party had wound down and the guests had gone home, I found myself lying awake, my mind racing. I couldn't stop thinking about Ethan and Olivia, about the look they shared, about the strange tension in the room. My thoughts were all over the place, like pieces of a puzzle I couldn't put together. Then, just as I thought I could finally sleep, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Ethan. We need to talk. And in that moment, I knew. This was it. This was the moment everything changed. I sat there, staring at my phone in the dim light of my bedroom, the words from Ethan's message still burning in my mind. We need to talk. I could feel my pulse quicken, the blood pounding in my ears as I debated what to do. Should I call him? Should I confront him right now? Or was I being paranoid? Was I reading too much into things? I ran a hand through my hair, trying to make sense of it all. This wasn't like me. I wasn't the type to jump to conclusions, to accuse people of things without solid proof. I had always prided myself on being rational, level-headed. But now, everything is cloudy. My mind felt like a storm, swirling with confusion and doubt. Why was I even questioning it? The signs had been there. Ethan and Olivia had always been close, but lately, it felt like their closeness had crossed a line. The way they looked at each other, the secret smiles, the moments that lingered just a bit too long. I had ignored it for so long, convinced myself it was nothing. But now I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in my chest. I wanted to believe I was just imagining things. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe I had let the tension of the wedding and the pressure of everything going on cloud my judgment. But deep down, I knew the truth. I knew that something had shifted between them. And I knew that whatever Ethan wanted to talk about it wasn't good. But what if I was wrong? What if I confronted him, accused him of something he hadn't done, and it turned out to be nothing? What if I ruined everything? My relationship with Olivia, my bond with Ethan, everything we had built together. The doubt gnawed at me. The part of me that wanted to believe the best in people, the part of me that wanted to think that maybe I was just being insecure, pulled me to wait, to let things unfold naturally, to trust them. But the other part of me, the part that had seen the way Ethan couldn't meet my eyes earlier, the way Olivia had pulled away from me when I walked into that room, screamed at me that I was right, that there was something I wasn't seeing, something that was about to break me. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. The knot in my stomach was too tight, the fear too overwhelming. I had to know the truth. I had to confront them. But what would I say? How would I even begin? My mind kept circling back to that moment in the hallway, when I had caught Ethan looking at his phone. Why had he acted so strange? Why had he hidden it from me? It wasn't like him. My brother, my best friend, the person who had always had my back, had suddenly become someone I didn't recognize. I thought about Olivia, the woman I loved, the one who had promised me forever. How could she betray me like this? How could she look me in the eyes every day and pretend nothing was wrong? How could she smile at me, kiss me, talk about our future, knowing that behind my back she was planning something else? I couldn't understand it. I couldn't wrap my mind around how the woman I trusted most could be hiding something so huge. The weight of it all was suffocating. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was drowning in my own thoughts. I wanted to believe it was a mistake. I wanted to tell myself that I was wrong, that I was just paranoid. But every instinct in me screamed that I wasn't. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. I stood up abruptly, my legs shaking, my mind made up. I couldn't just sit there and wait. I had to confront them, right here, right now. I needed answers. I needed to know if I was right, if everything I feared was true, or if, somehow, I was wrong. I looked at the message again, my thumb hovering over the screen. We need to talk. My heart raced as I pressed the call button. The phone rang, each second feeling like an eternity. What would I say? What would Ethan say? My throat felt tight. My palms were sweaty. Every nerve in my body was on high alert, as if I was about to walk into a room filled with 1,000 unknowns. Finally, Ethan answered. His voice, when it came through, was low and quiet, not his usual carefree tone. Yeah? I swallowed hard. We need to talk. He sighed, a long, heavy sound that sent a chill down my spine. Dan, now's not a good time. Now. It's time, I interrupted, my voice sharp, more forceful than I intended. What's going on with you and Olivia? There was a long pause, a silence that felt like it lasted forever. I could hear Ethan breathing on the other end of the line, the hesitation thick in the air. Dan, he finally spoke, his voice uncertain. You don't understand. Just let me explain. But I couldn't let it go anymore. The doubts, the questions, the fear that had been simmering beneath the surface all this time, I couldn't ignore them any longer. Explain what, Ethan? I asked, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. Explain why you've been acting so weird. Explain why I caught you hiding something from me. Explain why you and Olivia can't seem to stay away from each other. There was another pause, longer this time. And then, in a voice so small I almost couldn't hear it, Ethan finally said the words that would change everything. Dan, I never meant for this to happen. And at that moment, everything inside me went cold. The weight of Ethan's words hung in the air, suffocating me. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, trying to make sense of the mess I had just uncovered. I never meant for this to happen. What did that even mean? What had he done? What had they done? Before I could even process his words, I heard the distinct sound of a door opening in the background, followed by the soft murmur of Olivia's voice. Ethan? Who are you talking to? I froze. My blood ran cold. I could hear the concern in Olivia's voice, and yet there was something else there too, a nervousness, a tightness in her words that sent a shiver down my spine. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Olivia, I said, my voice shaky but determined. We need to talk. There was a brief silence before she spoke again. Dan, I don't think now is the right time. Her voice trembled slightly, like she was trying to hold it together, but it only made the situation worse. Now? I spat, unable to hold back the anger bubbling up. Now is exactly the right time. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, my thoughts spinning out of control. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know who to trust. Ethan and Olivia, my closest friends, had become strangers to me in the span of a few minutes. How had it gotten to this point? How had I let myself be blind to the things that were right in front of me? I could hear Ethan's voice in the background again, this time louder, more desperate. Dan, please, just let me explain. It's not what you think. I shook my head, my grip tightening around the phone. I didn't want to hear it. I couldn't hear it. But before I could say another word, the door slammed shut on the other end of the line, followed by the sharp sound of footsteps retreating. I stood there staring at my phone, the world around me spinning. Something was happening, something I wasn't ready for, something I hadn't expected. Then, as if the universe had decided to throw the final punch, my phone buzzed again. It was a text from Olivia. Please meet me outside. We need to talk. I stared at the message for a long time, my mind racing. I wanted to throw my phone across the room, to scream and yell and demand answers, but deep down, I knew I needed to face this head-on. If Olivia was asking me to meet her outside at this hour, it meant one thing: this was the moment where everything changed. I didn't wait another second. I grabbed my jacket, stormed out of the house, and headed toward the backyard, the place where we used to go for long talks, the place where I thought I knew her best. When I stepped outside, the cold night air hit me like a slap to the face. I could see Olivia standing by the garden gate, her back to me, her shoulders tense, like she was waiting for something or someone. I took a step forward, my heart thudding in my chest, but she didn't turn around. She didn't even acknowledge my presence at first. Olivia, I said, my voice hoarse. What the hell is going on? Finally, she turned to face me. But it wasn't the woman I knew. This woman, this version of Olivia, was broken. Her eyes were bloodshot, her lips trembling, and for the first time, I saw something raw in her. Something so vulnerable that it terrified me. I didn't want it to happen this way, she whispered, her voice cracking. I never wanted to hurt you, Dan. I never thought it would go this far. I stepped back, my mind racing, the words echoing in my head. What didn't she want to happen? What had gone too far? But before I could press her further, Olivia's eyes flickered behind me. I followed her gaze, and my stomach dropped. Standing at the edge of the yard, not far from where I was standing, was Ethan. I felt the ground beneath me shift. My knees buckled slightly, and I had to steady myself on the fence beside me. How was he here? Why was he here? Ethan's face was pale, his eyes wide with fear as he met my gaze. There was an air of defeat around him, like he already knew what was coming. "I never meant to betray you," Ethan said, his voice almost a whisper. His eyes were fixed on the ground now, like he couldn't bring himself to look at me. "What did you do, Ethan?" I demanded, my voice rising with every passing second. "When have you done?" Olivia stepped closer to me, but I couldn't focus on her. My attention was entirely on Ethan. I needed to hear it from him. "Dan, Ethan's voice trembled, and for the first time, I saw him as vulnerable. It shook me to my core. But before he could finish, Olivia cut him off. "It's not just him," she said, her voice shaking. "Dan, I've been hiding something from you two." I felt the blood drain from my face. The air around me became suffocating, every breath feeling heavier than the last. I'm pregnant, Dan," Olivia whispered, barely above a breath. "And it's his." The words hit me like a freight train. My mind went blank. Ethan. My brother. The person I had trusted the most. Olivia. The woman I was about to marry. And the worst part? This was only the beginning. The air around me felt impossibly thick, like the world had stopped moving, and it was just me alone in this nightmare of my own making. Pregnant. Olivia was pregnant, and it was Ethan's. I kept staring at her, trying to make sense of what she had just said. But nothing made sense. Not her face, not Ethan's, and certainly not the words that had come out of her mouth. Pregnant. I wanted to scream, to shout at them both, but my throat felt like it was closing up, choking me with the weight of this betrayal. I turned to look at Ethan, but he didn't meet my eyes. His shoulders were slumped, his expression hollow, like he knew he had just destroyed everything. I couldn't breathe. "Who, you're pregnant?" I barely managed to get the words out, each one feeling like it was ripping apart my chest. "And it's his?" Olivia nodded, her eyes filled with tears, but her face was set, as though she had already made peace with this horrible truth. "I didn't want it to happen this way, Dan," she whispered. "I never wanted to hurt you, but it did, and I can't undo it. Can't undo it." Those words hit me harder than anything else. They stung like acid in an open wound. It wasn't just the pregnancy. It was a lie. It was the way they had both looked me in the eye, pretending everything was fine. The way Ethan had smiled at me, his usual carefree self, while hiding this dark secret that had been festering for weeks, maybe months. The betrayal felt like a weight on my chest, pressing down so hard I thought I might suffocate. How could this happen? How could I have missed it? Was I that blind? I turned away from them, unable to look at their faces, their pit-filled eyes. I needed to think, needed to breathe. I needed to make sense of this madness. Why had I been so stupid? So trusting? Olivia and I had been through everything together. We were supposed to be building a future, a life, a family. And Ethan, he was my brother. The person who had always had my back. The one I trusted more than anyone. And now, he has crossed the ultimate line. I felt my fists clench at my sides, my body trembling with a mix of rage and confusion. I wanted to lash out, to make them feel the pain I was feeling, but the words wouldn't come. How could I even begin to express what I was feeling right now? I could hear their voices behind me, muffled, but I couldn't bring myself to turn around. I couldn't look at them. Not yet. I didn't want it to happen, Dan. Ethan's voice came again, quieter this time, full of guilt. "I swear I never planned this. It wasn't supposed to go this far." I laughed bitterly, a harsh, hollow sound that didn't even feel like it came from me. It wasn't supposed to go this far? Ethan, you're having a baby with my fiancée. How far did you think it was going to go? His silence was deafening. And Olivia, God, Olivia. She had always been the one I trusted the most. The one I thought I could never lose. The woman I was supposed to marry. How had she done this? How had she kept this secret from me? How could she look me in the eye every single day and lie? I should have known. I should have seen the signs. The way they acted around each other. The subtle glances. The little moments when I wasn't paying attention. The times when she would smile at me, but her eyes would wander, always searching for him. Ethan had always been there for her, always had her back, but I'd never thought it could go this far. I ran my hand through my hair, feeling a surge of frustration and disbelief. What now? A part of me wanted to scream, to throw something, to make them feel the hurt that I was drowning in. But another part of me, the part that still wanted to believe in some semblance of love or trust, urged me to just walk away, to leave this mess behind me, to forget them both. But could I? Could I ever forget this? Could I ever look at either of them the same way again? The room felt too small. The air is too thick. Everything around me seemed to close in as if the walls themselves were trying to suffocate me. I needed space, needed air. I can't do this, I muttered, backing away, my legs unsteady beneath me. I can't be here right now. I turned and started walking fast, as though if I moved fast enough, I could outrun this nightmare. But where would I go? What would I do? I walked outside into the night air, gasping for breath as if I had been underwater too long. My mind was spinning. The world was spinning. Was this real? I couldn't shake the image of Ethan's face, the guilt, the shame, and Olivia's tear-streaked face, pleading for forgiveness. How could I even think about forgiving them? How could I look at either of them again and pretend like everything was fine? I didn't have answers. I didn't have anything right now except the pit in my stomach that threatened to swallow me whole. I had two choices. I could confront them, tear it all out into the open, and face the consequences of what they had done. Or I could walk away, leave them behind, erase them from my life, and never look back. But nothing felt right. Nothing seemed like it could heal this. How do you fix a wound this deep? And as I stood there, my heart in my throat, I realized something. I was no longer sure if I even wanted to try. I walked away from them, feeling like I was leaving behind not just two people, but everything I had ever known. My life, my future, my plans, they all seemed like distant memories now, swallowed up by betrayal. The cold night air felt sharp against my skin, biting through the fabric of my jacket, but it couldn't numb the ache that gnawed at my chest. The ache of losing trust, of realizing that nothing was as it seemed. With every step I took, I felt the weight of their eyes on me, even though I couldn't see them anymore. Ethan and Olivia, my family, my future. Now, nothing but ghosts in a life that no longer made sense. I didn't know where I was going, or what I was supposed to do next. My thoughts were a storm, chaotic and violent. I thought about the life I had imagined for myself, plans to marry Olivia, to build a future together. It all felt like a cruel joke now, a dream shattered by the very people I had trusted most. I found myself standing on the edge of the old bridge near our house, the place where I used to come to think, to reflect. The place where I thought I'd always find peace. But now, it feels hollow. Like everything I had ever believed in was just an illusion. I leaned against the railing, staring at the dark waters below. The sound of the river crashing against the rocks felt like the roar of my emotions, loud, unforgiving. How have I gotten here? How had I let myself be so blind? I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling as I stared at the message Olivia had sent me earlier. Please meet me outside. We need to talk. The text had felt like a lifeline when I first read it, but now it felt like a taunt. We need to talk. I thought about replying, telling her everything I was feeling, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. What could she possibly say that would fix this? What could she say that would make me forget? The truth was, I couldn't trust her anymore. I couldn't trust Ethan, and that was the hardest pill to swallow. But then, as the minutes dragged on and the weight of it all settled deeper into my bones, a strange calm came over me. It wasn't a relief exactly. It wasn't even peaceful, but it was the acceptance of what had happened. The realization that no matter how much I wanted to change it, I couldn't. The past was gone. And the future? It was something I would have to rebuild on my own. I closed my eyes, letting the cold wind whip through my hair. Maybe that was the hardest part, letting go. The silence around me felt suffocating at first, but then I started to feel